Hello and welcome everyone, this is Saf for Eccentric Schoolhouse, and this is our first basic tutorial on Inkscape. Today's lesson is going to be on the interface. Now, I'm not going to be going too in-depth into the interface, so this will be relatively short. However, this is just to familiarize you guys, excuse me. So, let's get started. Let's open Inkscape. And here we are. And this is what it's going to look like out of the box. And this is your page property. However, you don't have to actually work inside the page. You can work on the outside, on top of it. This is just as used as a guideline. In fact, you can turn the page off altogether by clicking this icon here, which opens the document properties, and turn off show page border. You can change the page width, let's say 1000, whoops, 100, then 1000, height 500. You can change the units used from centimeters, feet, inches, millimeters. For the most part, we're going to be using pixels. You can turn on and turn off grids to be used as guides later on. You could change this current grid layout to show dots, which is a little bit less intrusive. Turn it off. In the future, I'll show you an easier way to turn on the grid as well. Let's see, there are other dialog boxes here, so for text. Here's for alignment of objects. For swatches. Let's see, dialog box for the fill and stroke. And here you can do all kinds of things. You could change the opacity of this object. For now a rectangle, you can change the blur. You can change the lightness, the hue, the color. You could give it a gradient, a linear gradient or a radial gradient. You could give it a pattern. Right now it's a stripe, and there's a slew of patterns to choose from. Bigger stripes, checkerboard patterns. Let's see, polka dots, so small you can barely see them. Let's zoom in. Large polka dots, wavy, camouflage, which is kind of tacky, but it's there. Sand to be used as a texture. That's actually a really good pattern to use. Cloth, also good texture. And old paint. And these are just patterns that come standard with Inkscape. You could also choose a stroke for your objects. So for this one, we're going to give it a yellow stroke. You can change the stroke style, which is right now it's a width of 1 pixel. Let's give it a width of 5. See, it's a little bigger. You can change the stroke color. By holding down Shift and clicking on our color palette selection spot. Let's see. Also, you can see the hexadecimal values of these colors here, which is good for web design in the future. So this orange is FF6600. If you don't understand that, don't worry about it. We'll get there when we get there. Let's see, that's one tool. Let's see, text tool is this A. Hello. And of course, as you see here, this little toolbar dynamically changes to accommodate the text tool, and you can pick your fonts. Let's pick Pico, which is the Twitter font actually, which could be used for our web design purposes. You could change the colors by using the color palette. You could give it a stroke. You could make it bold, italic, which I guess Pico doesn't have an italic option, so let's change it to myriad, bold, italic, line heights, spacing. Also to be found in the toolbox would be the zoom in options. So left click to zoom in, right click to zoom out. You could also do a quick zoom to the page by clicking up here, and it just tries to fit in the page as well as best as possible. You have the rectangle tool. Let's change the color on that one and remove the stroke. You have this 3D boxes tool, which is pretty cool to play around with. Change vantage points and whatnot. We have the ellipse tool, star tool. Let's make this red, and you can actually play around with the star tool, give it more corners, let's say 32. Give it a bigger spoke ratio, maybe make it more rounded. Just come up with all kinds of different shapes. Look, a flower. Here we have the spirals tool. And as you can see, there's more options at the top as well. So let's give it 3 turns. Smaller divergence. If we give it a fill color, because right now this is currently just a stroke, kind of looks like a really bad seashell. Let's see, the pencil tool, Bezier tool, calligraphy tool. And you could play around with this here, like maybe give it a splashy thing and play around with the size and whatnot here. Originally it was on tracing. Spray object sculpting, eraser, fill tool. I mean, this is basic. Gradient tool, which is an easier way to actually put gradients on your objects. Just double click, and right here you could select whether it's going to be a radial or a linear gradient. So let's say I just made this a linear gradient, but I want to make this blue one a radial. So just double click on that. And if you don't get that, we'll get there in our future tutorials very soon. And right now you can't see it, but there's the color dropper tool. So if I had a, excuse me, if I had a, I guess whatever color this is box, and I want an orange one, and I wanted I'll call it the maroon box to look orange, color picker, which is again, most of you probably already know how to use that. Another important thing is to show you the dialog boxes, which I already got into a little bit, but let's go a little deeper into it. Here's the dialog box. We can select both these options and align them in the middle, align them at the top, make them kind of overflow on each other. Right now this one is on a higher layer than the other one, so just move this down. As you can see, they overflow. We can move this around at the top, maybe on the left side, right side. Basically just play around with these options. I'm not going to get too detailed with this. I know this is confusing, but this is just an intro. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, well, yeah, layers, I guess. If you're going to be using layers, here's the layer dialog. Well, here's the layer menu. You could add layers, duplicate layers, rename layers, and then you could go between layers using this option here. And I probably confused you guys enough for one lesson. I know this wasn't very helpful, but again, every good tutorial series needs an intro to the interface, so this was ours. I promise it'll get better in the future. Alright, thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.